Jamie McLennan, since we last chatted with you, the Edmonton Oilers have won 3 in a row, take a stranglehold on this series against the Los Angeles Kings. And I was not expecting them to dominate the way they did last night. What did you think of their performance?
I thought Zach Hyman said it best as they carried their performance on from pretty much the second half of the game of game 4. If you look at it, I'm not the biggest analytics guy, but I track them and get them sent to me from Sport Logic. The Edmonton Oilers in game 4 had 33 high danger chances. I mean, Darcy Kemper was ridiculous down the stretch and into overtime. Last night they had 30 high danger chances. So they've created 63 high danger chances in pretty much a game and a half. We'll call it 2 games, but a game and a half really, because they didn't do anything in the first half of that game 4. So, I mean, you're seeing a team that, and it's not just 97 and 29. Like, now Arvidsson is dug in. I think Evander Kane has been unbelievable. I really think that he's a unicorn. I've said this before. There's not a lot of people and a lot of teams that have an answer for him when he's playing well. And you know, he scores a goal, yes, but physically, after the whistles, he's right there to calm things down. You know, I thought Frederick looked good last night. You're starting, you know, nobody's been talking about John Klingberg. Klingberg's played really well. Like, I thought that guy's career was done. And, you know, he's really calming. Listen, he got beat on the breakaway, which Pickard made a great save on Kempe. But outside of that, Klingberg's made some really good plays and stabilizing plays. So you're getting contributions from the rest of this group. So, yes, it looked a lot different than it was a week ago. And maybe that's why you guys are playing Eddie Murphy and everyone's dancing in front of the screen before I came on. I don't know. Who the hell was that dancing in front of the screen?
That was Trev. That's YouTube Trev, our producer. He sends you the link every day and stuff. He was very.
He's really enjoying himself this morning.
He's a happy boy. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. Noodles, though, I mean, with that depth and those high danger chances, you know, Matthias Ekholm injury and whoever's in net be damned. I mean, if you can still carry on this pace and do what you're doing here, I said this morning too, a little tongue in cheek. They win the next 13. They're Stanley Cup champions, man. They've gone on streaks before. It's not unheard of.
Yeah. If you could bottle that up, I will say, you know, LA's going to have a response. You can't just show up and put your skates on tomorrow and think that they're not going to push. I think it's weird to say the hardest, you know, game is the closeout game. And we saw it against Dallas last year where Stuart Skinner had to steal that one. You know, that was, I think he made, 35 saves. The shots were like, I feel like it was 35-10 or something ridiculous like that.
It was, they only had 10 shots.
Yeah. So, you know, LA's going to have a response, but I do like, there's been a few things that you look at, like, I would call this, and this is no disrespect to any players leading into it, but they're playing with more courage. I like to see guys going to the net and forcing those defenders to play. Like Connor McDavid's been targeted. That Gavrikov's been chasing him around, Doughty. And the best thing about it is McDavid is getting back up and just playing and playing and playing. And now I mentioned Kane is there. All of a sudden, now there's a physical response on the Oilers side where they're not going to get pushed around. So they look a little bit more, you could see, and Chris Knobloch talked about it the other day, saying that the guys who hadn't played with the team all year or had been injured for long stretches, they were getting better every game and settling in. And you could see, you know, the sum of all the parts potentially coming together. Again, it's 3 games in a row, but the last 2 or 1.5 for sure have looked pretty darn dominant.
You mentioned, and I don't think we would expect any less from most NHL teams. Like the Kings aren't just going to roll over, I wouldn't think, in Game 6. But we've been talking since Hiller made the challenge in Game 3 that kind of turned the tide in this series a little bit. You know, how do they stop the bleeding now when you've been dominated as much as they have for 5 straight periods? They're running a short bench already, basically going with 9 forwards and 4 and like a half D.
Top line's disappeared.
Yeah, what's the path out of this, I guess, for the Kings? How do you try to get things back and stay alive?
Well, I think the path out of this for them, if I was doing a pre-scout, is force Edmonton to play in their own zone, chip and chase, and be physical. And what we saw in the first couple games was LA dictating the pace, LA dictating the physicality, LA exposing, we'll call it a D that has been somewhat patchwork. Now, the D has come back together. I still would like to see a little bit more from Darnell Nurse, but I think a lot of people, head down that path as well. But I think Nurse has been physical. He's trying to be, when you look at that D, the biggest, I guess, would call Achilles heel is when they're playing well, they make their decisions quickly. When they're not, they hold on to the puck and they get hemmed in their zone. And then that forces the forwards who want to stretch the zone. God, we got to come back and defend. And that's not what they would love to do on a consistent basis, any forward group, but especially guys like Dry and McDavid and Hyman and guys who want to blow the zone and try and get speed through the neutral zone. So if I'm LA, the formula is to play, you almost defend in the offensive zone, is play very aggressive and try and force the Oilers to have those grade A turnovers like we saw in the first, we'll call it 2.5 to 3 games.
The Edmonton Oilers, you see what happened last night, and you brought up Evander Kane, but we were talking about it right off the top today. Nugent, Draisaitl, and McDavid get the point on the empty netter, but they were on the verge of winning a tight hockey game with points from Podkolzin, Arvidsson, Janmark, Kane, and Klingberg. And for such a long time, it's always been, the depth of this team, Last night was the first time, like the last 4 months, that I thought maybe there is a bit of another run in them here this year. And how much of that would come down to some of these depth guys maybe stepping up more than sporadically throughout the postseason? Yes.
And you could argue, Trent Fredericks had a couple good looks.
Yep.
And if all of a sudden he scores, Evander Kane gets his first, now you're looking at, and guys who feel like they can be impact. I'll be honest, the guy that I'm most, and again, I say this because I know there's more there, is Adam Henrique. I think Adam Henrique I think he's got another level there. He's an experienced guy. There's times and shifts where he's a very smart player, but there's times during this series where I think the pace is too much for him. And that's not a good thing, because Henrique is a really good, stable player. And, he needs to find his legs and his confidence, because he's a guy that, when it comes down to it, when you're feeling good about your team and you're trying to run depth down through the middle of the ice, Henrique, whether he plays in the 3-hole or the 4-hole, depending on, the deployment that Knobloch wants, he has to be a contributor. I think there is more from the guys farther down the lineup. Arvidsson's kind of been all around it. I don't know, I was kind of chuckled when I saw, that the tweets where it says, "Good night, oil country." And I think it was Nurse and him standing there. He looks like he looks like somebody put him in the dryer, like he shrunk down, like he's just a tiny little guy. But God, he plays hard. And that's what I like about it. And, that was the biggest knock with, bringing Arvidsson in. He didn't have his best year, but he is really tough to play against. Yes, he gets hit hard. Believe me, he got hit hard a few times last night. But he knew he's getting an angle shot from distance. He wanted to get that rebound. For me, that's the type of things where it's a cerebral play that ends up working out. And, Janmark's been a lightning rod. The guy had 2 goals this year. But now he's got 2 in the playoffs that are instrumental. And they do need his speed, and he's good on the penalty kill. And that's the other thing that you probably should point out is special teams. Their kill has kind of settled down now. And I'll say this. When you're running the 5-forward power play, the Toronto Maple Leafs have now given up 2 shorthanded goals on the 5-man power play. You look at last night, there was a 2-on-1. Connor Brown had a really grade A look on, shorthanded. These are the types of things you run 5 guys, and if you're smart about it, and Knobloch found some shifts for McDavid on the penalty kill going, you guys want to dink around, this guy might go the other way. So it's still a chess match, but the adjustments and some of the depth players stepping up has been really impressive. And I will say this too, Calvin Pickard wasn't pressured, but he made the big save on Kempe. He made a big wraparound save near the end of the game. I think it was on Kuzmenko. But, you make the saves that you are needed to make at the right time. And Pickard has given them that.
Well, yeah, that's where I wanted to go there, and then maybe we'll get to this Toronto-Ottawa series. Pickard is now 3-0 since coming into this series. It's not like he's had to steal 3 games, but how would you summarize his play for this team so far, and how much how much has it factored in to the 3-game swing here?
It's factored in a lot, and he is what he is as a goaltender. He'll go down swinging, being ultra aggressive. The reason why he stopped that breakaway is because of his aggressiveness. If you actually look, his push from right to left, he ended up 5 feet outside the net as the puck went through him and it rolled out the other way. Like his aggressiveness, he's not going to apologize for it. And I again, coming back to analytics, and I don't want to bore people, but I got a note from SportLogic, which I thought was really interesting, is he is 7 for 7 on seen backdoor one-timers.
Oh.
Where in this series, which I thought was really, because he's aggressive and he's got good lateral movement, Stuart Skinner has allowed 5 goals on 8 of those. Now, again, those are backdoor one-timers. The 5-on-3 would be considered one where it went shelf on Skinner. But moving side to side, Pickard has been really good, and he's made a couple good saves doing that in his 3 games. So it's been impressive what he's done. But I think the guys, like when they scored in overtime the other day, McDavid didn't go to Draisaitl. First thing he did is he went sprinting down the ice.
How significant
Pickard.
is that, Noodles?
Huge.
Yeah.
It's huge because you can see these guys are like, okay, we know what we're going to get from this guy. It's not going to be, he's an unmade bed in the net. It's messy but he gets the job done right now. I don't know how long he can sustain that, but what he needs to do is have an impact game where maybe they might not have their goods tomorrow night, and he's got to give them an opportunity to get their goods going. But I think it was so impactful. They had such a great start yesterday, and then they just didn't take their foot off the gas.
Speaking of feet being taken off of gas pedals, let's switch over to the Battle of Ontario. Would things start to tighten up at this point yet for the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Yeah, I mean, on our show, we'll be talking about an underpants cam and what color the skid mark is going to be and all of that. I would say this. The Ottawa Senators are a good team, and they're allowed to play hard too. Like, I would tell people this. I was taking my kids to school this morning, and guy stopped me. He's like, can't believe they're doing this. And I'm like, well, Ottawa's allowed to play hard and have a little bit of puck luck and get, because when you have 3 games that went to overtime, those are coin flip games, regardless of what happened to get there. And the Leafs won the first couple, and you're up 3-0, where you literally could have gone, okay, I could have seen Ottawa get one of those. I could have seen Ottawa, if they get lucky, if they get the puck luck, 2 of those. So in the end, if you would have said to me at the start of this series, I thought it was going to go 6 or 7. So, however you've arrived at it, that's what it looks like. It's funny. We're talking about the Edmonton Oilers up 3-2 and the Toronto Maple Leafs up 3-2. And the temperature of the fan bases couldn't be polar opposite right now, because a week ago when they were down 2 Cobb and the Oilers looked like they were out to lunch and LA was just too strong for them, we were like, okay, this team is constructed poorly. What's going on? Stuart Skinner can't make a save, and Nurse, and what's Bouchard doing and all that. And it's funny how a week changes everything. But that being said, I think there is some tension in Leafland because of the history of this group, and it's earned because now they're 1-13 in closeout games.
Well, I was going to say too.
That's horrible.
Well, are the Sens is it more than staying alive right now, given what you just said, and the fact that the Oilers are going home up 3-2, the Leafs are going on the road up 3-2, and the history, and the Senators having a decent team.
They're a very good team. They've got depth. They're just inexperienced.
Yeah.
But I said this at the start of the season or start of the series because I cover the team. And people in Toronto are like, oh, they've only got 175 playoff games experience and the Leafs have 1,200 or whatever. And I'm saying, yes, but if you look at it, the guys who didn't have experience, Thomas Chabot's 28 years old. Like he's not, they're not 19. Yes, Tim Stützle's 23 and Ridley Gregg's 22 and Jake Sanderson's 22. But then they've got veteran guys or guys like Brady Tkachuk's 25. Once they get a taste of it and they're starting to build, like you can see their confidence growing. And it comes down to, and I'm getting long-winded, but Linus Ullmark, like all of a sudden the goaltender looks like the goaltender again. So, there's going to be a lot of question marks heading into tomorrow's game, but, Ottawa has been right there for the most part. Outside of the first game where they were undisciplined and they got roasted on special teams, every other game they've been right in it, and it's been kind of a coin flip game. So we'll see how game 6 unfolds.
Jamie McLennan, as always, buddy, we really appreciate it. Man, the city is hopping right now. Like it's a fun place to be, Noodles. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, listen, what they can do is give themselves a better opportunity. You come out like gangbusters. This Darcy Kemper's trying to steal it, man. He's been unbelievable, and there's a reason why he's up for the Vezina. And LA's can be a stingy team, but the Oilers are doing a good job of getting to him. And I didn't even mention Corey Perry. Just every shift is in his crease and standing there. Like you're getting contributions from guys that you maybe thought had more. And you're seeing a little bit more. I think Jake Wallman's been good. Bouchard has settled in, and Klingberg. As I raved about it earlier, I thought he's really been a stabilizing force, like moving the puck. Like you just need to get the puck out of your zone and live to fight another day. And he's done a good job for the most part of moving the puck.
Awesome chat, man. We'll catch up next Wednesday.
You bet. Thanks for having me, guys.
Jamie McLennan, his show Overdrive is going to be interesting this afternoon.
It'd be a wild ride.